The hall fell silent as the Namibian delegation took the floor. Cameras steadied. Pens hovered. Even the seasoned diplomats in the room leaned forward, sensing that what was about to be said would not be the usual polished diplomacy. Dressed in the vibrant colors of her nation, the Namibian representative, the president herself, Madam Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, adjusted the microphone, her calm demeanor contrasting sharply with the tension rippling through the G20 Summit. Before her sat world powers, nations whose decisions shape global finance, trade, energy, and the fate of billions. Yet as she looked across the room, there was no hesitation in her eyes. This was not a plea. This was not another polite request from the global South. This was a declaration. For too long, developing nations had carried the weight of systems they did not design. For too long, assistance had come wrapped in conditions that choked growth rather than fueled it. And today, Namibia was done whispering. She took a breath, steady and deliberate, the kind taken before dropping truth that cannot be ignored. And then, with the confidence of a leader speaking for an entire continent's frustration and hope, she began,
"We are not seeking for free money. We want a fair and equal financing opportunities."
Upon Her Excellency Dr. Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, the President of the Republic of Namibia.
Thank you, Your Excellencies. Namibia thank and congratulate Your Excellency President Ramaphosa, the government and the people of South Africa for bringing G20 to Africa, placing Africa's concern in the agenda of the summit, and for the kind invitation extended to my country. Guided by the African Union Agenda 2063 and the UN Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development, the importance of addressing development priority from the African perspective cannot be overemphasized. Developing countries find themselves on debt trap as a result of capital high cost for developing countries based on the perceived risk that does not reflect the reality on the ground. In the face of unfair financing terms, recently Namibia honored its international obligation by redeeming its $750 million Euro bond on time, signifying strong fiscal responsibilities. However, we are considered by decision makers as a risky country. We need a fair international financial institutions. Being the most meaningful way, we can place people at the heart of sustainable development. Our focus on advancing the transformation of global governance must be underpinned by the common understanding that only an inclusive and representative international system will have the capacity to respond to the present-day challenges. If our financial architecture is not fit for the purpose, we will continue to see the pressure of a looming global debt crisis that intensified imbalance between developed and developing countries. We are not seeking for free money. We want a fair and equal financing opportunities. For Namibia to grow and industrialize our economy, Namibia is welcoming investors to invest on value addition at source for our natural resources, including critical minerals, to yield a broad-based benefit for all our people. To leave no one behind, countries must mobilize adequate resources for development, apply responsible debt management, and safeguard resources for essential social and economic programs such as education, health, and infrastructures. Namibia urges the G20 leaders to strengthen debt treatment framework by providing concessional financing to countries that demonstrate commitment to sound debt management and to be innovative in strengthening others. As we strive towards reducing inequality within and among countries, fair taxation, financial inclusion, and social protection are essential tools. In Namibia, social protection coverage has expanded, with old age grants reaching 98% of eligible citizens, and children grants stand at 66% of vulnerable children. These measures ensure that vulnerable groups, that include people living with disability, are supported in the path to prosperity. It also allows women and youth to play their role in development. As I conclude, I can say, let us reaffirm our shared commitment to inclusive and sustainable economic growth, guided by the SDGs, by focusing on 3 pillars. 1, strengthening trade-drive economies. 2, securing financial for development, while responsible managing debts and reducing inequality through inclusive policies. And all these are talking to the theme of this conference, which we really very much welcome, namely solidarity, equality, and sustainability. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, President Nandi-Ndaitwah, President of the Republic of Namibia. I now call upon His Excellency, Mr. Dick Scoff. I now move on to ask His Excellency, Dr. Julius Maada Bio, the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone and the Chairperson of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to take the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Your Excellencies, distinguished leaders, ladies and gentlemen, I want to start by congratulating our host for being a great host, especially for the warmth and hospitality that he has extended to us. I now bring you warm greetings from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. The region is currently celebrating its golden anniversary in recognition of various achievements, but also reflecting on the future of the community. We gather here to make important decisions on trade, finance for development, and the existential debt burden. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, trade is not just about goods crossing borders, but about creating opportunities in Africa for over 1.4 billion people and providing opportunities to create employment and wealth. In Africa, we are committed to boosting intra-African trade through effective implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, a system that empowers small businesses, connects landlocked communities, and unlocks regional value chains. However, we cannot do it alone. We call on G20 to 1. Reform global trade rules to ensure fair access for African exports. 2. Invest in trade facilitation, digital corridors, and green logistics. 3. Support the full implementation of FTAs, such as the AfCFTA, especially for the effective participation of women and youth entrepreneurs. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, development finance must move from charity to strategy. Africa does not lack ambition, but affordable capital. The cost of borrowing for many of our countries is up to 8 times higher for advanced countries. We urge G20 to 1. Scale up concessional finance and blended instruments for climate resilience, digital infrastructure, and urban transformation. 2. Empower national and subnational institutions with direct access to global capital markets. 3. Champion innovative tools like diaspora bonds, carbon credit, and SDG-linked instruments that reflect Africa's realities. Scale up climate finance commitments. Africa contributes, as we all know, less than 4% to global emissions, yet bears the highest climate cost. G20 must support the realization of the 100 billion climate finance pledge and accelerate access to loss and damage fund. To advance global peace and security, the G20 must lead the effort to redress the issues of increasing global poverty, economic inequality, and justice, which feeds global security challenges. G20 must work to evolve a more peaceful world in which prosperity and advancement for all is a global goal. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, today over 20 African countries face high risk of debt distress, not necessarily due to reckless borrowing, but because we borrow in a structurally unjust system. The cost of borrowing and servicing for many African countries is prohibitively high, thereby diverting funds from crucial sectors such as health, education, and infrastructure, as has been alluded to by many already. The G20's common framework must evolve. We need, 1, timely, transparent, and equitable debt restructuring across all creditor classes, intercreditor burden sharing and binding timelines, access to concessional finance and capital on fairer terms, a new debt climate development compact that links relief to resilience, addressing issues like illicit financial flows, profit shifting, and marginalization in global value chains is crucial for long-term solutions. We offer the following recommendations. We propose the establishment of a task force on trade and finance for structural transformation. 2, we call on multilateral development banks to create dedicated credit lines for regional and urban development. We urge the summit to adopt a multi-pronged approach on fiscal space, financial innovation, and institutional capacity as the foundation of a new global economic architecture. And finally, we call for a recommitment to the multilateral trading system that we are used to. Thank you.